Thank you. So today we embark on a new journey called the Top 25 Misconceptions About Christianity. And this is number 25, and then we come down to number 1. And the order probably wasn't quite as important in this course as, say, the one where I talked about the 25 most important people in the post-apostolic church. Well, everybody wanted to see who number 1 was, or who the top 5 were, and there was a lot of interest in that. And this one, the ordering probably isn't quite as important, but it was still an interesting exercise, because I picked the 25 topics first, and then I ordered them. And so I did put some thought into it. I didn't just say, toss them in. Today we will be talking about the Goddess Sofia, and that's number 25. It's not a big deal, this one, but I view it as a way that some people will misuse translating the Bible to fit a certain agenda. And how many of you remember the Goddess Sofia controversy from the 1990s? How many of you remember? So a few of you do. I will show you how to refute that, but I'm also using it as an example of a bigger theme. We were just talking about this one a moment ago. It's the snake handling issue that people like Bill Mayer or WSB in the morning, Neil Bortz, will use snake handling as a way to make fun of Christians. And the number of Christians in the world who engage in snake handling could probably fit in our sanctuary. There are 2 billion, as Ed reminded us, there are 2 billion Christians in the world, and the amount that handle snakes could fit in our sanctuary. So,
I bet there will be less and less of them.
Less, oh yeah, for physical reasons. So people who will point out something that's kind of at least eccentric and try to define all of Christianity by that, I have a problem with. Does Christ appear in the Old Testament? That's one that I get asked by youth from time to time. Well, if Christ is God, is God part of God, the Godhead, how come he doesn't appear in the Old Testament? And I think he probably does. We mentioned the worship service is one. Why don't we worship like we did back in the early church? What Jesus said, and that will be refuting the Jesus seminar. I will not be handing out colored beads in this class. What I said in the book is that my class had taken a vote, and we decided that 100% of what's attributed to Jesus in the Bible, he actually said. And that I hope the wire services would pick that up the same way they picked up the Jesus seminar. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's good. Stay in the class and you will know. Jesus is the Son of God. Is there anywhere in the New Testament that Jesus actually says he's the Son of God? Isn't Christianity inherently Marxist? You can substitute communist or socialist. I've heard of all iterations. Aren't Christians holier than thou? How many of you have ever met a professing Christian who seems a little holier than thou? How many of you ever met? But yeah, we all have. So if the question are there any Christians in the whole world that are holier than thou? Well, yeah, sure there are, but I don't view that as a key part of the Christian message. If anything, we view ourselves as great sinners, and a reason to be holier than thou. Causes of the Crusades, weren't the Crusades caused because the meanie pants Christians beat up on the poor defenseless Muslims? So we'll talk about that one. I will just mention two words to refute that one up front: Tours and Saladin. Again, if you don't know what I mean, you will when you look it up. Separation of church and state. We all know it says in the Constitution that there has to be a separation of church and state.
Wrong. No, it doesn't.
Slavery in the Bible. Does the Bible say it's okay to have slaves? We'll talk about that. Secular humanists in the media tend to use the term evangelical and fundamentalist interchangeably, and that's just not true. I mean, there actually was an official break between evangelicals and fundamentalists in the late 50s. And they've never come back together. There's so many variants of Christianity. How can they all be right? So what I did with that one is, rather than focusing on the things that tear, geez, I sound like Brian now. I've been influenced too long. But rather than focus on the things that tear Christian denominations apart, let's focus on the core stuff that we all believe. Aren't people basically good?
No.
And that you pick a single thing that separates Christians from secular humanists. Secular humanists, thanks to Rousseau and all those French Revolution guys, they believe that a human baby is born pure as the driven ivory snow, and that it's society that corrupts them, which Christians believe we're all tainted with the sin of Adam and Eve, and we're all born corrupt. Christians and gays, that would have been a topic that would have been utterly forbidden in my classroom for 15 years, and we will actually address it. I married Jesus. I had to include it. It's number 10. It was a Dan Brown. I remember Dan Brown. This one would have died a lonely death, but because of Dan Brown, I had to address it. Are there any references to Jesus outside of the Bible? That's the one I did several months ago in one of our classes. I don't remember which one now. But everybody liked it, so it's included in there. Dead Sea Scrolls. Do the Dead Sea Scrolls prove that Christianity is not original? Well, in order to believe that, you have to start out with assuming that Christianity is completely original and it's not an offshoot of Judaism. And as Presbyterians, we believe it's an offshoot of Judaism. The Inquisition. Doesn't that show that Christians at heart are meanie pants? And how can you say that you're a religion of peace and love when the church did all these terrible things? So
like socialism and communism never did anything bad.
We'll talk about that one. And basically, the path I take on that one is to agree about how horrible the Inquisition is. You are not going to get a defense of the Inquisition in this class. But what you will get is looking again at the fact that Christians believe everybody's born evil. So we don't believe just because you're a baptized Christian that means you don't sin anymore. At least unless if you're in Holiness Church. Isn't the Bible essentially anti-religion? The answer to that is no. But unfortunately, there are some denominations who will use certain verses out of the Bible as reasons to not welcome women into religion. Not taking the whole Bible.
Okay.
So, the selection of the canon wasn't a canon decided upon by a group of dead white males at some obscure church council back in 325, and the answer is no. So we're talking about that. The Gnostic Gospels, should we include the Gnostic Gospels in the Bible? The ones that were found in Nag Hammadi back in 47, including the Gospel of Thomas. You know we're getting into the top layer ones now. Christianity and science. Aren't Christians inherently anti-science? Exclusivity. Some people get concerned about the fact that Christians believe the only way you can be saved is through Jesus, and that's not fair to And then number one is defining what a Christian is, and I put that number one on purpose. What I run into a lot is people that say, well, I think Jesus is a cool guy, I have his bubblegum card, and I give to charity, so therefore I can call myself a Christian. And the answer to that is no. That being a Christian is defined by a certain set of beliefs. And it's wonderful that you give to charity, I'm all for that. It's wonderful that you have Jesus' bubblegum card, and it's wonderful you think he's cool. But those things in and of themselves do not make